So here are top 10 factors that's going to affect your local real estate market the most in 2026. This data is based on National Association of Realtors research of the top 10 hottest city in 2026. But more importantly, these top 10 key factors, if you kind of pay attention to these local numbers, you can somewhat connect the dot to see how your market's going to do in 2026. Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is Shawn, the realtor guy from Portland, Oregon. The first one is Millennial household presence. It says markets with a strong base of younger household have more built-in demand as the interest rates fall. It makes sense, right? Because that's the age group. They're forming family, they're having kids, and they're kind of seasoning into their jobs. So that makes a lot of sense. Number two, household income growth. Rising incomes expand purchasing power and support sustainable price growth. This goes with like local job market, local industries. This is more true, more diverse city industries are. So for example, like in Portland, Oregon, we have tech job, healthcare, manufacturing, service industry, and schools, and a bunch of stuff. So when you have a healthy mix of the different industries, more likely the job growth will happen. Number three factors. Number three is a job growth. So number two and number three goes side by side. It says financial stability directly supports housing demand. It's pretty obvious one, so I don't know why they put that. We can make it to 9 key factors, not 10. Number four, increase in qualified household with lower rates. Some markets see a large jump in newly qualified buyers when rates decline. So it's kind of like how many people are kind of getting ready to buy that home, their first home or move up home, based on their income level, based on the number of down payment that they saved, and the job security and income growth. Right now, one of the bigger sort of issue is the inflation is, they say it's like 3%, but some say it's like close to 6% inflation, annual inflation. So if you're making, let's say you got a bonus or you got a pay increase, and if that's like less than 6%, you're kind of behind. So in order for you to feel like you actually are making more money, what you're spending, day to day, weekly, monthly should be less than what you make. But right now it seems like the inflation is faster than the housing market, the home price increase, or the pay increase, salary increase. So it's kind of tough time for home buyers. One other thing to add on to this is that, I've seen people waiting on the sideline, renting for like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years to save up more down payment, while home prices continuously jumping up like rabbit jumping up. So you're having like the turtle down payment saving rate, but the home price is jumping like rabbits. Then you can't really catch that. And so it's kind of tough situation where if you're thinking about buying and you're saving here, but the price goes up way more, what can you do? A lot of young people are feeling that right now, and there's a lot of negative sentiment in home buyers, I think. Let's move on. Stop talking about rabbits. Number 5, strong domestic migration as a share of the population. Areas gaining residents tends to see stronger sales, household formation, and upward price pressure. So stronger domestic migration. One way that we used to track was like tracking how many of the moving vans are moving out of certain states and moving into certain states. I think it's the van line. I think it's the trucking company. They basically have this tracking system of how many households are moving out of, let's say, Oregon to go to California, which is actually the opposite. How many households are moving out of California to move into Oregon, or Oregonians moving into Arizona, vice versa, like Minnesotans moving into Oregon. So those numbers are going to really dictate. So if you see the population growth in your city, job market, the income growth, I mean, those are good signs. Right now, personally, I think Intel is not doing so well. So as Oregonian, Portlander, it feels a little bit shaky. I talked to some home sellers too, and their confidence level isn't as good. What I mean by that is, if the Intel doesn't do so well in the next 2 to 5 years, there's a high chance that the west side of the Portland housing market price can be softer, meaning it may not grow as much, it may actually decline. That's what they fear, which I don't agree with. But that's what the consumers and home sellers are thinking right now, especially the ones that are more closer to retiring age, because you work hard to build that equity, and if your neighborhood market crash when you're about to cash out and sell that big house to move into a small house, that could become an issue. Let's move on to number 6, share of sales with the price cut. A measure of seller expectation and how close list price are to meeting buyers' budgets. So this is more like a temporary indicator in my opinion, but it is a more up-to-date one. So when you see about 30%, 40% of the homes are having price cut, which we're actually experiencing in Portland right now, that's a good indicator for the buyers, which means the market is way softer. As I mentioned before, this is when you can strike a deal, making maybe a slightly lower offer or maybe even a lowball offer too, and be able to negotiate on the price or terms. And that's what we see right now. We're seeing about 40% of more like closer to 50% of the listings are having price cuts before they go under contract in Portland, Oregon. Number 7, listings are aligned with the incomes. Inventory returning at the price point where local incomes can support a purchase. So this kind of explains in a way that more expensive neighborhood will have to have jobs with high income earners. And so, for example, like Lake Oswego, Oregon, it doesn't make a lot of sense in that regard because their homes are way more expensive than like median income here, or even median upper income. It's hard to afford there. However, like a Bethany, 97229, I think a lot of the tech industry, if you're in that income bracket, you should be able to afford one. So it's kind of like industry and income level dictates the price point that supports certain neighborhood. And it's kind of like number 3, 4, the job growth, the increased qualified household with the lower rates, domestic migration, the listing aligned with the income. They're all kind of combined. They're kind of explaining it in different flavors, but it's pretty much the same thing. Number 8. So this one you can apply to anywhere. Mortgage payment versus rent. So this is really, really good indicator. I'm a sort of like a analyst in a sense that I really follow the rental price very closely, because before a housing market decline, rental decline comes first. And we are starting to see that right now. We haven't seen that last year, but now we're finally seeing some of the rental market is getting softer. So to me, this is the first sign of house price coming down a little bit. Right now, there are two different points of that it can be kind of conflicting. So if it's a short-term rental declining because of the seasonality, because we're heading into the winter, that can confuse us or you compared to like 1 year long, the rental price going down. So that's different story than the seasonality rental. But right now I get the mixed data of both short-term and long-term rental prices going down just a little bit. So if this continues, you will safely bet in about a year or two, the price will get even go lower. Oh, by the way, in Portland, Oregon, in the last about 10 months or so, it's been about like 0% appreciation or negative 1% appreciation, that type of market trend. But right now, it's 1% above 2024 of December. So I think that the trend of going down, declining, depreciating kind of turned back, but we'll see. So when you see the rent going down in your neighborhood, that means, the house price is gonna go down soon too. Number 9, single family permits growth. So when you see like more options for buyers to come to the market, so this is where when you see a lot of like subdivisions building a lot of homes, or builders are more optimistic, getting more permits, builders have very sensitive market temperature because they have to plan ahead like minimum 12 months. So if they're actively getting permits, that means they're anticipating the demand in about 12 to 18 months. And so that's a good indicator to look at. The last time I checked, what we're increasing in Portland, Oregon is multi-family permit is increasing, not single family permit as much. Single family homes are kind of stagnated right now. Many home builders are like doing a lot of discounts and rate buy down to sell their current inventory. But permit-wise, I think it's more of they're kind of like retracting. They're being a little bit more like a defense mode rather than the offense mode. They're getting a lot so they're not getting a lot of permits right now. But when you see other cities like, I hear that Idaho, like Boise, Idaho, up to about a year ago, they were like building a lot of single family homes. So that could be a different market. So when you see that, you can kind of tell by how many permits are issued versus what kind of market you may experience. But number 10, growth in mortgage origination. So this is the number that I looked at about 3 weeks ago, and mortgage application number has ticked up. What's confusing here is that people who already got the pre-approval like two years ago, they're still in dormant stage of buying. If they get a big job, the salary increase or promoted, they could just come out and refresh the credit check, and then they could become a home buyer as of today if they wanted to. So there's a dormant like backed up applicants. There are a ton out there. However, the newly applying home buyers mortgage application has ticked up, which tells me that in 2026 the market will be improved, and that's what NAR is showing too. Let's look at some of those couple key points that the NAR is expecting right now. So NAR has been, decently accurate in the past. They're different than just news media hypering up numbers to kind of give you fear. They're more on the optimistic side. Maybe they're biased, but they have been pretty accurate in the historically. They think that the first one is mortgage rates to be average about 6% in 2026. And this is, combining with the Fed's rate and, unemployment, inflation, the whole economy and all those things. But they're anticipating 6%. So slightly lower, but not too much lower. So that means overall market's going to do the kind of similar things as 2025, but maybe 5%, maybe 10% improved overall transaction numbers. That's what I see if this is true. They're expecting 1.3 million new jobs to be added in 2026. I don't have an opinion on whether that's like very optimistic or pessimistic, but 1.3 is the number. To me, that seems pretty normal. The other thing they're expecting is existing home sales to be increased by 14% in 2026. Okay. So home sales. So this is a number of transactions. That's how I read it. And then one last thing is their home prices to be increased by 4% in 2026. As the affordability improves, sales recover at a double-digit pace, prices rise, but a healthier, more sustainable rate, which is true, and the moderate job growth supports stability without reigniting inflation. So moderate job growth, that number is kind of, I don't know, job growth, I hear the complete opposite news. Job has lost a lot, so I don't know what to believe there. And lastly, I'll give you the top 10, the hot city that they're anticipating. Based on this, the previous top factors, the factors that you have to look at to see how the local market is going to do, they basically made this top 10 list. Charleston, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Columbus, Ohio, Indianapolis, Indiana, Jacksonville, Florida, Minneapolis and St. Paul, Raleigh, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Spokane, Washington. And they think that because of all these things, pricing, the job growth, the income growth, a lot of millennials, household forming, and the mortgage and rent payment kind of crossing, all those things. Interesting thing is, 8 out of 10 cities are like a Midwest or East Coast. Only West Coast is Spokane, Washington, and Salt Lake City, Utah. So maybe, the West Coast is going to get softer, and then the East Coast is going to get even more appreciating. That's what I read. But that's it for today's video. I hope this gives you more of an overview, 10,000 foot view of the housing market. If you have any thoughts or opinion, whether I said something wrong here or whether I said something right, just let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and have a great week.